Hi, I'm Callum. I'm a huge football fan and a big follower of Nottingham Forest Football Club. And I'm about to embark on an adventure that I've been looking forward to for some time now. I'm going to be looking into the FSF campaign for legalising safe standing at football grounds. The FSF stands for Football Supporters Federation, and it has been campaigning for safe standing as early as 2004. Now what they're campaigning for is for football clubs in the top two divisions to introduce safe standing into their grounds, to allow supporters to feel the atmosphere and like it was back in the 1980s, 70s and even the 1990s. On my travels I'd be travelling to Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool and Sunderland. In Birmingham I'd be talking to Lee Priest of Aston Villa Football Club. He's the project manager there and I'll be talking to him about his opinion on safe standing. In Liverpool I'd be talking to Stephen Kelly of the Hillsborough Justice Campaign. He's a lead campaigner there and he'll also be discussing about his brother who sadly died at Hillsborough in 1989. And finally, in Sunderland I'd be talking to Gareth Cummings of the FSF and the lead campaigner for safe standing. So to start off I'd be heading to Sunderland to talk to one of the lead campaigners for the Football Supporters Federation and for the safe standing campaign. Gareth Cummings will be talking to me about all their ideas for safe standing. Hi Gareth, would you like to introduce yourself and your job role at Football Supporters Federation?
Yeah, my name's Gareth Cummings, I'm a Liverpool supporter. I've been working at the FSF for just over 6 years and I deal with the new media and the website side of things, so a lot of the social media, blogs and a lot of the back of house work for the FSF.
Give us a brief history about the Football Supporters Federation and just a little bit about it.
Well, it was formed in its current state in about 2004 through the merger of two organisations that were previously running alongside each other. You have an organisation called the National Federation of Football Supporters Clubs, which were club-based supporter groups, so travel clubs and societies from around the country. They came together in about the 1920s and formed a national network of football supporter groups. And then after the Heysel disaster in the mid-80s, a group of Liverpool fans formed the Football Supporters Association, which was there to represent individual fans because of the troubles they had at the time with things like the policing, the state of the stadiums, the game in general disrepair. So you had these two organisations running alongside each other, one for individuals, one for groups, and the process was set upon in the early 2000s for those to merge, and they became the Football Supporters Federation.
How long has the safe standing campaign been running for?
It's been up and running for a number of years now, pretty much since the FSF has been formed. The Taylor report, which brought in the all-seater regulations in the aftermath of Hillsborough in the early 90s, led to a situation where fans were being forced to sit down, and yet they hadn't got out of the habit of being involved in terraces, being involved in standing at match days. And Taylor has said in his report after Hillsborough that fans would eventually become used to sitting to watch their football, and that just never happened. So 10 or so years ago, a number of fans were getting together, unhappy with the situation regarding being forced to sit at matches and wanting to do something to make standing safe, not a return to the terraces of old, not a return to dilapidated stadiums that were underfunded and underinvested, but wondering whether or not they could do something to help make standing return to grounds, but in a much safer form. And so what started as a small number of people, probably 10 or more years ago, has grown ever since and has now become one of our leading campaigns.
And how many football clubs are supporting safe standing at the moment, roughly?
There's a full list on our website of clubs that individually identify themselves as backing the campaign. We've been working over the last couple of years on a club-by-club basis, looking to see if we can get support from clubs to back the campaign. There are two main clubs who've bought into the idea and want to run a trial at their grounds, Peterborough United and Aston Villa. And off the back of those clubs saying that they would be willing to run a trial, we then were able to convince further clubs to lend their support to the campaign. The Football League as an organisation have officially backed the safe standing campaign, so technically the 72 clubs from the Championship down to League 2 are in favour of pilots of safe standing.
I was now on the way to Liverpool to meet up with Steve Kelly of the HGC and to get his opinion on safe standing and to talk about his brother who sadly lost his life at Hillsborough in 1989. I was intrigued for what he had to say as he was a running member of the Hillsborough Justice Campaign for some time now, and I was intrigued to see what their thoughts are on the safe standing.
Yeah, my name's Steve Kelly. I'm a member of the Hillsborough Justice Campaign. I lost my brother Michael at Hillsborough in 1989. At the time of when the match kicked off, I was actually in Penny Lane in Liverpool. And I noticed a crowd of people outside the television shop. And I just said to my wife, oh, there must be a goal pretty early on, I'm going to go and see, you know, the score. And when I got over there, you could see all these different TV sets. There was something going on at Hillsborough. Blue. That's the way it works in Liverpool. You tend to follow one of your uncles or your dad, whatever it be. You know, we used to go to lots of football matches together as kids. But he was okay. He was a good lad. He was a quiet man, into his music. During the close season, he loved his cricket. He loved to watch Lancashire playing cricket. But his first love was the football. At the time of Hillsborough, he was living down in Bristol, and he used to travel up with the Stratford-upon-Avon supporters, and he used to follow them all over the country, you know, and it was a very, very sad day for me, and very, very sad day obviously for the family when we lost him at Hillsborough. We've missed him all these years. He was a typical Scouser, quite humorous, but very, very dry with it, you know, and he was, you know, sadly caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you know, miss him to this day.
How long has the campaign been running for?
Well, the campaign's been running for 16 years. 10 years after the disaster, there was a campaign going with just Hillsborough families, but we envisaged to push the campaign on, we needed to involve the survivors of Hillsborough. We've had so many stories to come back to help us achieve, you know, truth and justice, because they were our eyes and ears on the ground that day.
Is the Hillsborough Justice campaign against the FSF's campaign for safe standing? No,
we would never sort of push our views on anyone. As I say, my personal view is we should look at introducing it, but there's campaign members who were sadly at Hillsborough that day and experienced so much trauma. They are fully against it, but we can all, you know, knock our heads together and I'm sure come to, as I say, some sort of common ground. So we're, you know, willing to talk to people about how we can maybe get safe standing.
What's your personal opinion on maybe the introduction of safe standing?
Well, my own opinion is the fact I think it needs to be looked at. The younger generation coming through since Hillsborough have never experienced standing at football grounds, and you know, it's I think safely it's a good experience, but it's got to be safe. And rather than just the suits at the FA or the ground themselves, the club themselves introducing this, they need to involve the supporters to find out exactly how they would feel safe coming into a ground and having this experience.
I was now off on a train to Birmingham, where I'd meet up with Lee Priest of Aston Villa Football Club, one of the main football clubs that supported safe standing. I was going to be talking to Lee Priest about the Football Supporters Federation's safe standing campaign and get his opinion and Aston Villa's opinion on the matter. When was Aston Villa first introduced to the idea of safe standing?
I couldn't tell you what year that was, but obviously we keep a close eye on, you know, particularly in the modern social media age of Football Supporters Federation and supporters groups and supporters trust and that sort of thing. So it's been on the agenda for a number of years. We 2 or 3 years ago were one of the clubs that were quite, as a result of the supporters trust survey, quite happy to put our head above the parapet and say this is something we are interested in pursuing. A lot of people seem to think that they can only engage in the atmosphere and sing songs and make noise from a standing position, and that's one of the main reasons why the Football Supporters Federation and other supporters groups around the country are so keen to reintroduce that atmospheric element of what persistent standing will bring.
What stand would you be trialling the safe standing in?
There was talk of using the Holt End lower tier in the area below the giant screen.
Okay.
If we went back and revisited the plans on that, who's to say whether or not that would still be the case?
Yeah.
You know, the irony with that part is that's not an area of the stadium at the moment that we have an issue with persistent standing.
Yeah.
You know, so the majority of people there seat at the moment. So, but yeah, we would just go back and go around. We've obviously got 4 different stands, and we're built on a giant slope.
Yeah.
So we would have to go through from start to finish what would be the best area and how we would do it and how we'd make it work. But we would be up for doing that. But there's no point us pursuing that at the moment until such point as we are actually allowed to do that.
Yeah.
The starting point for that is the Premier League.
Yeah.
Enough clubs from the Premier League voting to say that they are, you know, they want to get this, you know, passed at one of their shareholders meetings.
To end this documentary, I interviewed a few football fans across the UK on their opinion on safe standing.
Yes, yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I think that there's places for it within the stadium, within any stadium you go to. I think in this modern day you have to go back to standing because more and more people wanting that. You can see it when you go to away games, you can see it here occasionally.
Well, obviously if the technology is right, I think it needs to be obviously investigated and properly. But if the technology is right, I think it's a very good thing. I think it should be brought back to a lot of grounds.
Well, I used to be standing in areas of the ground before the all-seater stadia ruling came in, and I think as long as people behave, there isn't a problem at all, really.
I think I'm for it. More funding for the club, isn't it, at the end of the day?
I do miss standing up on the Holt End like we did all those years ago, and the camaraderie that we had around then. It was different atmosphere at the time. So yeah, I would be in favour of it in the right conditions, yeah.
I used to watch Preston in like sort of the late 80s. And it was always sort of standing, obviously. It was I always felt really safe then. But yeah, I think it's a good thing.
I think the introduction of safe standing create a better atmosphere.
I think there should be a choice to be able to do so if you so wish, as long as it's safe.